On a humid August night in 1998, a lifeless body was discovered sprawled across the bed of room 906 at the Phoenicia InterContinental Hotel in Beirut. That body belonged to Fahad Warisi, Hamas wing commander, whose presence remained strictly clandestine. The Lebanese concierge who first entered the room described the unsettling quiet, the air conditioning humming over a motionless frame. A silenced television flickered in blue shadows, projecting fleeting images across Warisi's vacant eyes, hinting at secrets beyond comprehension. Emergency responders rushed in, expecting the aftermath of a natural collapse. Yet seasoned detectives sensed otherwise. There were no signs of struggle, no immediate evidence of poisoning, no weapon. The man appeared to have simply drifted away, but nothing about Fahad Warisi's existence was ordinary. He was a man entangled in global webs of terror, politics, and clandestine finance. His sudden death in a luxury hotel suite was destined to ignite speculation, investigation, and an international storm of suspicion. Fahad Warisi was not merely another militant lost in Lebanon's fog of intrigue. He was a key architect of cross-border operations, responsible for channels of funding, arms procurement, and alliances that stretched from Tehran to Khartoum, from Gaza to Damascus. His disappearance from the chessboard was not a minor tactical note. It was an earthquake beneath the region's fragile ground. Every intelligence service with eyes on Beirut understood instantly. A major piece had been forcibly removed overnight. For Israel, Warisi represented an elusive enemy mastermind. For Iran, he was a conduit to project power into Palestinian resistance. For Lebanon's factions, his presence was a bargaining chip. For the United States, he was a dangerous accelerant. And yet, despite his notoriety, his death produced no claim of responsibility. No militant banner was raised. No communique appeared in coded broadcasts. Silence hung heavier than gunfire, suggesting professionals had moved with precision, designed to erase their footprints. Within hours, whispers spread through diplomatic channels, private intelligence bulletins, and newsrooms hungry for confirmation. Had Mossad finally reached its target after years of failed attempts? Or had another hand moved against Warisi, ensuring his story ended behind hotel curtains? Who had penetrated Beirut's heavily watched hotel district with such stealth? Who possessed the skill to silence a man so deeply protected, leaving behind no bullet, no blood, no visible trace of intrusion, just the stillness of a lifeless figure? Why had the strike come now, when regional negotiations hovered precariously between collapse and breakthrough? Was this assassination a deliberate message, a brutal reminder that diplomacy unfolds under the shadow of unseen knives, sharper than words and quicker than treaties? Could it have been rival Palestinian factions seeking to remove a powerful competitor? Or Syrian intelligence, eager to eliminate a destabilizing guest? Was Iran betrayed, or complicit in a scheme to quietly reshape the resistance leadership hierarchy? And what of Mossad, whispered in corridors and rumored in encrypted cables? Had Israel perfected another surgical strike on foreign soil, leaving governments scrambling for explanations and allies suddenly questioning their own security protocols against invisible assassins? The mystery of Fahad Warisi's death was more than a hotel room tragedy. It was a question mark carved into the heart of Middle Eastern geopolitics, daring the world to uncover truths buried beneath deception, fear, and carefully orchestrated silence. Fahad Warisi entered the world on February 14, 1964, in Rafah, Gaza Strip, a town bruised by conflict and divided by borders. His childhood unfolded in refugee camps where survival was measured in food rations, curfews, and whispered stories of lost homeland. He was the eldest of 6 siblings, bearing responsibility early. His father, once a construction laborer in Kuwait, returned after expulsion, jobless and bitter. His mother stretched every meal, weaving resilience into the fabric of her children's personalities. Education was inconsistent. Israeli checkpoints often delayed his passage to school. Textbooks were outdated, chalkboards cracked, yet teachers imparted not only arithmetic, but narratives of struggle. History lessons blurred seamlessly into accounts of resistance, creating in Fahad a sharpened political awareness. He spent evenings listening to elders recount battles past, their voices rising with pride and grief. These oral histories painted martyrs as saints, villains as eternal enemies, embedding within Fahad a worldview defined by loss, vengeance, and unyielding loyalty to kin. In the narrow alleys of Rafah, children fashioned slingshots from twisted wire and broken rubber. Fahad excelled at these games, exhibiting patience, precision, and quiet competitiveness. Neighbors noted his silence, his gaze that lingered longer than most boys his age. Religion was woven into daily rhythm. The call to prayer punctuated his routine, but faith for Fahad was not merely ritual. He absorbed sermons as tactical instruction, hearing strategies disguised as scripture, recognizing clerics as both spiritual leaders and battlefield generals. By adolescence, scarcity had hardened his demeanor. He bartered cigarettes at checkpoints, carried messages across alleys, and memorized escape routes between crumbling walls. Survival demanded calculation, and calculation became instinct. Friends began referring to him as dependable, unflinching under pressure. When the first Intifada erupted in 1987, Fahad was already seasoned by adversity. Tear gas, rubber bullets, and night raids became his classroom. While others fled, he observed patterns of soldiers' movements, cataloging weaknesses, sharpening his instincts toward a darker trajectory. His family endured arrests and interrogations. A cousin vanished into Israeli detention, never returning. Another relative was killed during a protest. Each loss deepened his resolve. Fahad's sense of destiny was no longer personal, it was generational, heavy with inherited obligation. Thus emerged the foundations of a life destined for militancy. Fahad Warisi's childhood was not innocent, nor accidental. It was a crucible, shaping him into an individual who would later command, organize, and orchestrate operations that shook nations far beyond Gaza. Fahad Warisi's ideology crystallized during his late teens, merging religion, nationalism, and personal bitterness into a combustible doctrine. For him, Islam was not simply a faith, but a political system, a binding force uniting scattered Palestinians under one uncompromising banner. He revered the writings of Sayyid Qutb, studied pamphlets smuggled through underground channels, and memorized speeches from revolutionary clerics. For Fahad, every sermon was a battlefield lecture, every verse a justification, every parable a coded strategy for resistance. Unlike fiery peers, he avoided grandstanding. He spoke softly, measured words carefully, and rarely raised his voice. This quiet delivery gave him gravitas. Listeners leaned in closer, interpreting his restraint as wisdom, mistaking his pauses for prophetic authority. He carried personal quirks that seemed almost contradictory. A disciplined man, he polished his shoes obsessively, folded shirts with soldierly precision, yet kept an erratic sleep schedule, often awake at dawn scribbling thoughts in coded notebooks filled with cryptic sketches. Fahad abstained from cigarettes and alcohol, but indulged in endless cups of sweet tea. He believed stimulants clouded judgment, while tea sharpened his focus. Those who served alongside him joked that kettles boiled whenever plans were being drawn. Despite his militant rigidity, he loved poetry. Verses from Mahmoud Darwish resonated deeply, and he often recited lines before strategy meetings. To him, poetry softened the brutality of armed struggle, transforming bullets into metaphors, killings into sacrifices framed in lyrical tradition. Yet beneath such habits lay iron conviction. Compromise was betrayal, diplomacy was theater, and war was eternal. His quirks humanized him, but his ideology weaponized him, propelling a boy from Rafah into the mythos of militancy, feared and revered in equal measure. Within militant circles, Fahad Warisi was known as Al-Farisi, the Persian, a name earned not from heritage, but from his uncanny ability to weave Iranian support networks into Hamas operations. The alias became legend, whispered like both praise and warning simultaneously. His closest comrades also called him Abu Tariq, after his firstborn son. In Palestinian culture, fatherhood bestowed status, but for Fahad, the title carried heavier weight. It signaled continuity, a reminder that his struggle was a family legacy. Israeli dossiers, however, branded him the broker. This name reflected his skill at arranging deals, arms shipments through Sudanese ports, cash couriers across Jordan, safe houses in Damascus. To adversaries, he was less fighter, more ghostly facilitator of violence. Warisi himself cultivated an image of calm strategist. He despised unnecessary theatrics, preferring to appear as a quiet organizer, rather than flamboyant commander. Yet he deliberately leaked stories of near escapes, reinforcing his mystique as a man untouchable by assassination attempts. Nicknames framed his self-image as myth. To friends, he was family patriarch. To enemies, elusive spider at the center of a dangerous web. To himself, he was inevitable. A man convinced history demanded his hand guide resistance forward. The first Intifada erupted in 1987, and for Fahad Warisi, it was not merely a spontaneous uprising, but an initiation. Street protests became recruitment grounds. Stone-throwing youths quickly evolved into organized cells, and Fahad observed, learning tactics beyond demonstrations. His initial role was modest, smuggling leaflets, securing safe meeting places, relaying messages between leaders. Yet superiors noted his discipline, his unwillingness to boast, and his capacity for discretion. Trust was his most valuable weapon, and Fahad wielded it ruthlessly. Arrest soon followed. In 1988, Israeli forces detained him during a mass roundup. Detention lasted months, yet interrogation failed to extract confession. He emerged hardened, convinced silence was his shield. Within Hamas circles, imprisonment elevated him to respected initiates. Upon release, Fahad avoided public grandstanding. He traveled between Gaza mosques, blending in as humble activist. Behind closed doors, however, he met Iranian intermediaries, studying financing methods, understanding how weapons crossed deserts, how money disguised as charity purchased bullets and rockets. By the early 1990s, his political instincts sharpened. He attended local councils, speaking softly, urging community projects, while simultaneously guiding militant logistics. This dual existence blurred lines, part politician, part clandestine operative, positioning him uniquely within Hamas's growing infrastructure. Friends noted how he framed resistance as governance. To him, militants were administrators of occupied neighborhoods. Garbage collection and gun running were twin responsibilities. His transition was seamless. Social service became recruitment, political legitimacy became camouflage, and militancy became inevitable policy. By decade's end, Fahad Warisi was no longer errand runner. He was strategist, balancing politics and operations, rising quietly while louder figures attracted spotlight. His path from boyhood in Rafah to commander in Beirut had begun, unstoppable, relentless, and meticulously calculated. The Middle East in the late 20th century was a cauldron of shifting alliances and unending wars. Palestinians lived under occupation. Lebanon remained fractured from civil war, and regional powers exploited chaos as battlegrounds for ideology, faith, and proxy competition. The Arab-Israeli conflict was its central axis, drawing neighboring states into perpetual confrontation. Israel's military victories solidified its statehood, but Palestinian statelessness festered like an open wound. Every ceasefire became temporary, every treaty a fragile page destined for flames. In Lebanon, the civil war left scars deeper than rubble. Militias aligned with sects, foreign patrons armed them, and Beirut itself became synonymous with assassinations, kidnappings, and shadow warfare. Factional violence overlapped seamlessly with the wider Palestinian struggle. Iran's 1979 revolution injected new energy into the region. The Islamic Republic framed resistance not merely as nationalism, but as religious duty. Hezbollah's birth in Lebanon exemplified this transformation, providing Tehran with a disciplined proxy against both Israel and Western influence. Meanwhile, Syria exploited Lebanon's fragility to project power. Damascus maintained dominance over militias and smuggled arms, playing protector and predator simultaneously. Palestinian leaders sought refuge in Damascus, turning Syria into both sanctuary and leash, limiting independent maneuvering of Hamas and others. The Oslo Accords of 1993 promised hope, yet delivered disappointment. While some Palestinians embraced negotiations, groups like Hamas rejected compromise, branding the accords betrayal. Violence surged again, and the dream of peaceful coexistence seemed to collapse into blood-soaked streets. Lebanon's geography ensured perpetual entanglement. Its borders with Israel, Syria, and the Mediterranean made it crossroads for refugees, smugglers, and spies. Hotels in Beirut were not neutral spaces. They were temporary headquarters for exiles, informants, and assassins disguised as businessmen. The global stage amplified the stakes. The United States pushed peace initiatives while secretly funding security coordination with Israel. European states extended aid, yet tolerated Hamas sympathizers. Regional actors maneuvered, always balancing morality against strategic gain, leaving principles compromised and blurred. In this cauldron, the Palestinian armed struggle became internationalized. Bombings in Europe, financial networks in Africa, training camps in Sudan, all were connected threads. Fahad Warisi was not anomaly, but product of an era where militants became diplomats of destruction. Thus, the broader conflict was not chaos without structure. It was a shadow system with rules, hierarchies, and deadly consequences. Anyone rising within its ranks carried destiny, written in blood. Fahad Warisi's story cannot exist apart from this volatile backdrop. Israel viewed Hamas as existential threat, equating every rocket and ambush with erasure of security. Intelligence agencies relentlessly hunted financiers and commanders abroad, knowing leadership decapitation disrupted networks. For Israel, neutralizing figures like Fahad Warisi was strategy, survival, and psychological warfare combined. Iran conversely saw Hamas as invaluable extension of influence. Through money, weapons, and ideological indoctrination, Tehran nurtured Palestinian militancy. Support for Hamas allowed Iran to strike Israel indirectly, exporting revolutionary vision while avoiding direct conventional war against technologically superior adversary. Syria's position was calculated ambivalence. Damascus provided sanctuary for exiled leaders, hosted training camps, and facilitated weapons transfers. Yet simultaneously, it restricted autonomy, ensuring Palestinian groups served Syrian strategic goals. Warisi's Beirut residence remained under constant Syrian intelligence observation. Lebanon itself was stage, not actor. Its fragile government lacked strength to curb militias or expel foreign operatives. Palestinian commanders exploited refugee camps as recruitment grounds, while Lebanese factions bartered alliances. Hotels, cafes, and ports became neutral yet dangerous zones of intrigue. Egypt attempted mediator's role, balancing hostility toward Islamist militancy with historic obligation toward Palestinian cause. Cairo permitted negotiations, sometimes cracked down on Hamas networks, but never severed ties completely. For Fahad Warisi, Egyptian intelligence remained an unpredictable obstacle across smuggling corridors. Jordan's monarchy adopted survivalist strategy. Haunted by memories of Black September in 1970, Amman suppressed Hamas activity aggressively. Yet diaspora networks persisted quietly, funneling money across borders. Jordanian officials often shared intelligence with Israel, complicating life for Palestinian commanders seeking safe haven. The United States framed Hamas through lens of terrorism. Designations restricted fundraising, pressured allies, and reinforced Israel's right to preemptive defense. American diplomacy emphasized peace processes publicly, while covertly endorsing counterterrorism partnerships, casting figures like Warisi as obstacles to regional stabilization. European governments walked delicate line. Public opinion sympathized with Palestinian suffering, yet attacks on civilians eroded tolerance. Some states tolerated Hamas-linked charities, others outlawed them entirely. Intelligence services, however, monitored leadership closely, exchanging quiet dossiers with both Israel and Arab governments. Gulf monarchies oscillated between charity and caution. Wealthy patrons funneled donations under guise of humanitarian aid, while governments avoided official entanglement. Their ambiguous stance provided Hamas with financial oxygen, though political recognition remained limited, ensuring deniability for rulers safeguarding Western alliances. Thus, every state became stakeholder in Warisi's trajectory. His existence crossed borders, activated intelligence exchanges, and disrupted diplomacy. To some, he was hero, to others, menace. His life symbolized fault lines between survival, ideology, and raw geopolitical self-interest. Fahad Warisi mattered because he represented evolution of Hamas, from localized militancy into regional force. His expertise bridged ideological fervor with operational pragmatism. Unlike flamboyant leaders, Warisi operated quietly, constructing logistical arteries that allowed violence to flow from one border to another. He was indispensable because he fused money with muscle. Warisi's networks transformed charitable donations into explosives, humanitarian convoys into weapon shipments. He blurred lines between aid and armament, demonstrating how modern militancy thrived within shadows of legitimate commerce. His fluency in multiple dialects and patient demeanor allowed him to move undetected across Syria, Lebanon, and Sudan. Unlike commanders bound to Gaza's alleys, Warisi traveled with forged passports, blending seamlessly into cosmopolitan Beirut, Cairo, or even European transit lounges. He cultivated deep ties with Iran's Revolutionary Guard, enabling Hamas to access advanced training and technology. Rockets smuggled into Gaza often bore Warisi's fingerprints. His ability to translate Iranian strategic aims into Palestinian realities elevated his importance to both allies and enemies. Beyond weapons, Warisi specialized in recruitment of elite operatives. He scouted universities, refugee camps, and mosques, identifying talent. Those who survived his rigorous vetting often became future commanders. His shadow mentorship ensured Hamas's continuity, making his elimination a generational priority for adversaries. Warisi also symbolized resilience. Multiple failed assassination attempts enhanced his legend, projecting image of man destined to outwit enemies. This myth inspired younger militants who viewed him as living embodiment of defiance, someone whose survival mocked global intelligence services. For Israel, his continued existence represented failure. Each operation traced back to Warisi confirmed his strategic genius. Every undisturbed transaction reinforced perception of invincibility, undermining Israeli deterrence. Eliminating him was not only tactical necessity, but psychological imperative, restoring credibility of Mossad's reputation. For Hamas, his absence threatened structural collapse. He was less replaceable than fiery spokespersons. He was architect of supply chains, custodian of secret codes, and keeper of Iranian trust. Losing him risked dismantling fragile ecosystems sustaining militant operations across borders. For regional powers, Warisi's network was both opportunity and liability. Some used him as conduit for influence, others feared entanglement in his shadow dealings. His presence forced states into uncomfortable proximity with clandestine violence, exposing hypocrisy of diplomatic posturing. Thus, Warisi mattered not merely as militant but as symbol of interconnected struggle. He embodied the hidden scaffolding behind visible conflict, making him a linchpin whose removal promised disruption far beyond the walls of a Beirut hotel room. Fahad Warisi's first documented brush with violence came in 1986, when Israeli patrols discovered his involvement in stone-throwing riots near Rafah. Although considered minor offense, his name entered intelligence ledgers, marking him as potential agitator rather than ordinary restless youth. By 1988, Warisi escalated. He smuggled crude Molotov cocktails to organizers, ensuring protests retained firepower. Israeli intelligence identified his discreet logistical role, arresting him during night raid. Weeks of interrogation yielded nothing. Silence became his hallmark, frustrating interrogators and bolstering Hamas trust. Released in 1989, Warisi resumed activity cautiously. He organized underground study groups discussing resistance literature. Authorities viewed them as religious circles. In reality, they incubated future militants. His arrest had paradoxical effect, elevating status, convincing peers he was unbreakable. During 1990, Egyptian border police intercepted him near Sinai carrying counterfeit documents. Though briefly detained, he bribed his release through smuggler networks. The incident confirmed growing ambition. No longer confined to Gaza, he sought regional channels, expanding beyond Israeli scrutiny alone. His reputation matured when Israeli forces raided Rafah, uncovering cache of explosives in abandoned house. Though direct proof absent, locals whispered Warisi's orchestration. Arrest warrants circulated, forcing him underground. From this moment, he learned survival through constant movement and layered secrecy. Hamas leaders recognized value. While others craved martyrdom, Warisi survived, planning carefully. Early arrests did not cripple him. They transformed him into legend. Each detention amplified aura, painting him as man who endured captivity without compromise, silent soldier with iron will. These early crimes and arrests forged template for future. Fahad Warisi learned to weaponize even his failures, converting detentions into credentials, suspicion into reputation. Law enforcement pursued him relentlessly, yet each encounter strengthened his metamorphosis from activist into militant commander. Warisi's imprisonment in 1988 left scars deeper than paperwork. Though guards extracted no confession, he later claimed repeated beatings, extended sleep deprivation, and exposure to freezing conditions. His silence was shielded, but each hour hardened resolve against interrogators' systematic brutality. Rumors circulated within Hamas that Warisi endured electric shocks, though Israeli records denied such methods. Truth blurred deliberately. What mattered was perception. Comrades believed he had survived horrors intact, transforming him into martyr-like figure still breathing, still plotting. Inside detention, he observed human weakness. He studied how prisoners broke, how whispers spread, how informants betrayed. For Warisi, the cell became laboratory, revealing psychology of captivity. Torture was classroom, and he emerged professor of clandestine discipline. Upon release, his body bore faint scars, but his legend carried sharper weight. Stories of resilience traveled faster than truth, painting him invulnerable. Warisi never corrected exaggerations. Understanding myths were as useful as weapons in sustaining authority. Claims of torture framed his personal narrative. They allowed him to embody collective suffering of Palestinians under occupation, elevating private pain into public symbol. Whether fully accurate or embellished, these accounts forged indestructible aura around Warisi's name and reputation. After his release, Fahad Warisi drifted deeper into Hamas's inner structure. Initially positioned as logistical aid, he impressed senior commanders with discipline. His ability to manage finances, procure weapons, and maintain secrecy quickly elevated him beyond street-level activism into organizational backbone. By 1991, Warisi supervised clandestine arms shipments routed through Sinai. His operations avoided flamboyant violence, focusing instead on enabling others. Senior figures noted he was less warrior, more architect. Quiet efficiency made him indispensable, though his name rarely appeared publicly. He cultivated relationship with Islamic Jihad factions, bridging rivalries for practical gain. While ideological debates consumed others, Warisi prioritized utility, secure weapons first, argue doctrine later. This pragmatism attracted Tehran's attention, granting him introduction to Iranian Revolutionary Guard intermediaries. Rumors spread that Warisi helped establish a shadow committee within Hamas, responsible not for ideology, but logistics. This cell, later dubbed the Brokers, coordinated money laundering through Gulf charities, disguising militant funding as humanitarian relief, insulating leadership from exposure. His influence expanded into recruitment. Warisi founded study circles blending Quranic instruction with tactical lessons. Young men learned patience, secrecy, and loyalty. Unlike flamboyant preachers, he demanded discipline. These recruits became cadre who revered him as mentor rather than mere commander. Lebanon soon became operational hub. Warisi organized safe houses in Beirut, liaised with Hezbollah, and learned lessons from Lebanese militias hardened by civil war. The city's chaos provided cover for clandestine meetings, smuggling ventures, and intelligence exchanges woven into Beirut's fragile fabric. By mid-1990s, his reputation was cemented. Warisi was neither charismatic orator nor frontline fighter. He was builder, connector, invisible hand ensuring militancy endured. Within Hamas, whispers called him the unseen engineer, a man whose absence would collapse entire infrastructure. Thus his path shifted irreversibly. Fahad Warisi no longer followed movement. He shaped it. Joining groups had been beginning. Creating structures became destiny. His quiet entry into leadership corridors marked transition from participant to architect, preparing stage for escalation far deadlier than before. By the late 1990s, Fahad Warisi had graduated from discreet logistics into darker arenas. Smuggling became art form. Weapons hidden in olive oil canisters, detonators concealed within toys, cash bundled inside Qurans. His ingenuity transformed everyday objects into arsenals. Kidnapping entered his playbook as leverage. Foreign contractors and rival militants vanished into Beirut's underbelly, resurfacing only after negotiations. Warisi mastered choreography: abduct, isolate, bargain. Hostages were not trophies. They were bargaining chips in clandestine diplomatic poker. He orchestrated high-profile abduction in 1997 of Jordanian businessman suspected of funneling intelligence. The man was held weeks, released bruised yet alive. Warisi's point was clear: enemies would pay ransom not only in money but in silence. Killings soon followed. A Lebanese informant suspected of betrayal was found slumped in alley, throat cut with surgical precision. Local police investigated half-heartedly. Among militants, message resonated powerfully. Warisi's networks tolerated no leaks, rewarding loyalty with life, punishing betrayal with death. Israeli settlers near Gaza became indirect targets. Though not physically present, Warisi's fingerprints surfaced in planning raids. He coordinated money transfers and provided weapons, ensuring operations carried deadly precision. His absence from battlefield masked reality. He was strategic mind orchestrating chaos. Smuggling routes expanded through Sudan and Libya, creating continental arteries. He traded Kalashnikovs for gold, rockets for opium profits. Transactions blurred morality, but strengthened Hamas's reach. Warisi justified it pragmatically. Survival required funding, and funding demanded compromise with unsavory markets. Western intelligence finally took notice. European airports flagged couriers tied to his networks, while Interpol circulated alerts. Yet Warisi himself moved invisibly, slipping past borders under forged names, his true identity hidden beneath layers of aliases and disguises. Thus, Escalation reshaped him irrevocably. No longer just broker, he became architect of terror's toolkit. Smuggling pipelines, kidnappings as diplomacy, killings as punctuation. Each act widened his legend, sharpened Mossad's focus, and propelled him closer toward inevitable confrontation with professional hunters. In October 1994, Israeli intelligence traced arms shipment through Rafah tunnels directly to Warisi. Crates of assault rifles disguised as humanitarian flour sacks slipped beneath checkpoints. Despite surveillance, Warisi vanished hours before raid, reinforcing image of phantom always one step ahead. In March 1996, car bomb detonated in Tel Aviv, killing civilians and soldiers alike. While Hamas claimed responsibility, Israeli investigators uncovered Warisi's coded faxes arranging finance. His signature was invisible, but unmistakable. Careful handwriting concealed behind blood-stained urban carnage. July 1997 brought audacious kidnapping of 2 Lebanese men accused of espionage. They were held in Beirut basement for 19 days. Negotiations secured release, but message lingered. Warisi's reach extended beyond Gaza's boundaries, capable of reshaping Lebanon's fragile balance. In December 1998, Sudanese intelligence intercepted shipment of Iranian-made rockets destined for Gaza. Paperwork bore traces of Warisi's network. Though cargo seized, his involvement demonstrated ambition to escalate beyond rifles and bombs, envisioning arsenal capable of striking deeper into Israeli heartland. January 2001 witnessed killing of rival Islamist operative, suspected of cooperation with Jordanians. The man's body was discovered outside Damascus safe house. Syrian security forces muted investigation. In whispers, responsibility pointed toward Warisi's circle, consolidating control through silent, ruthless elimination. By 2003, Interpol issued red notice linking him to laundering networks across Europe. German authorities flagged bank transfers, yet no extradition followed. His careful use of cutouts and false identities transformed prosecution into diplomatic labyrinth, frustrating investigators while amplifying his notoriety. In June 2005, Israeli jets struck convoy in southern Lebanon believed to carry him. Vehicles exploded, yet Fahad Warisi was absent, reportedly warned minutes earlier. Survival cemented myth. Mossad's most sophisticated operation foiled by instincts of one elusive commander. Each incident added chapter to dossier. Smuggling, kidnappings, assassinations, financial trails. Together they built narrative of man always present, yet never caught. These step-by-step episodes carved Warisi's legend, escalating him from regional nuisance into international priority target, hunted relentlessly. By 2006, Fahad Warisi's name appeared on Israeli intelligence's most wanted chart, circled in red ink during closed briefings. He was no longer shadowy facilitator, but critical node connecting Hamas leadership, Iranian strategists, and Lebanese smugglers. Neutralizing him became declared priority. The United States soon followed. Treasury Department designated him under Executive Order 13224, freezing assets and criminalizing support. Official statements labeled him financier of terror. Privately, analysts acknowledged Warisi's genius lay less in violence, more in engineering infrastructure enabling it. Interpol issued advisories, warning European airports of forged passports bearing his likeness. Though sightings multiplied in Frankfurt, Athens, and Istanbul, he slipped past every net. International alerts expanded his legend, elusive ghost haunting global security bureaucracies. In 2008, British intelligence classified him under Category Black, designating individuals whose elimination, not prosecution, was considered solution. This quiet shift signaled global recognition. Warisi was not mere militant, he was transnational operator undermining conventional boundaries of law enforcement. Regional governments reacted unevenly. Syria tolerated his presence, exploiting him for leverage against Israel. Lebanon tolerated his networks quietly, fearful of retaliation. Egypt denounced him publicly, yet allowed occasional passage. Each state balanced condemnation with pragmatic indulgence, perpetuating his survival. Media attention amplified myth. Newspapers described him as invisible broker of Hamas, master of disguises, financier disguised as pilgrim. Journalists speculated he possessed half-dozen passports, shifting between cleric, merchant, and tourist identities. Each article fueled our intelligence services struggled to puncture. Israel intensified pursuit through joint task forces. Cyber specialists traced his encrypted communications, while field units mapped safe houses. Despite efforts, he remained unscathed. Failure frustrated political leadership, demanding Mossad craft surgical solution, transcending traditional surveillance and targeted raids. Warisi's importance stemmed not from ideology alone, but his irreplaceability. Others preached resistance, he built logistics. Others staged attacks, he ensured weapons arrived. His removal promised disruption measured in collapsed operations, silenced cells, and weakened Iranian influence across Palestinian theater. Hamas elevated him quietly to central committee. He avoided speeches, preferring shadow authority. While charismatic figures absorbed airwaves, Warisi sculpted strategy. His survival symbolized resilience, his leadership continuity, his presence nightmare reminder to enemies that Ghost remained untouchable. Thus, by end of 2009, Fahad Warisi stood atop overlapping lists. Mossad kill files, American terror designations, Interpol alerts. His transformation was complete. From boy in Rafah alleys to international fugitive, global agencies aligned in mission to erase him. In 2002, Israeli drones tracked convoy leaving Sidon, Lebanon. Missiles streaked skyward, obliterating vehicles in fireball. Yet Warisi was not aboard. Informants later claimed he switched cars minutes earlier, instinctively sensing surveillance. Survival transformed him into legend whispered across militant camps. 2 years later, Mossad planted car bomb in Damascus suburb, detonating beneath identical sedan registered under Warisi's alias. The explosion shredded steel, killing decoy driver. Syrian investigators concluded target survived again, his absence timed with eerie precision. In 2006, Lebanese police discovered poisoned perfume bottles hidden within intercepted package addressed to Warisi's Beirut safe house. Analysis revealed exotic toxin. Whether Israeli or rival faction, message was unmistakable. Even his personal habits were studied, vulnerabilities probed relentlessly. Another attempt unfolded in 2007 near Beirut's airport. Gunmen ambushed convoy, riddling cars with bullets. 3 bodyguards died, but Warisi escaped through underground passage connecting garages. Hezbollah denied involvement, suggesting rival Palestinian faction sought revenge. His ability to vanish deepened aura of invincibility. In 2008, European authorities uncovered Mossad operation targeting Warisi during layover in Athens. Operatives planned to stage medical emergency aboard aircraft. Greek counterintelligence intervened, expelling suspects. Though unconfirmed officially, leaks suggested attempt would have involved lethal injection mid-flight. By 2009, assassination campaigns became relentless rhythm. Explosive devices appeared along Warisi's commute routes, gunfire erupted near safe houses, suspicious women attempted infiltration. Each plot failed narrowly, feeding paranoia, yet sharpening his security protocols. His enemies refined methods, he refined survival instinct. Hamas celebrated his escapes as divine protection. Recruitment posters depicted him beneath caption "The Untouchable." These myths inspired youth, but Israeli analysts worried legend amplified influence, attracting followers not through ideology alone, but through aura of unkillable strategist. Each failed attempt tightened pressure on Mossad. Political leaders demanded results. Intelligence chiefs warned patience thinning. The longer Warisi lived, the greater his reputation grew. Eliminating him was not optional, it was reputational necessity for Israeli clandestine services. Warisi himself grew more cautious. He changed hotels weekly, rotated bodyguards, and demanded meals be tasted. Yet constant vigilance eroded normalcy. His life became chess match of suspicion, each move calculated, every stranger regarded as potential assassin waiting. Thus, assassination attempts defined his later years. Survival ensured myth, yet inevitability loomed. Each escape, however miraculous, brought him closer to fate awaiting all targets. The day precision, planning, and persistence converged, ending legend within single calculated strike. By 2010, whispers within intelligence circles carried certainty. Fahad Warisi's survival could not last. His escapes were miraculous, but every miracle had expiration. Mossad's patience was finite, its reputation tethered to proving no adversary remained permanently untouchable. Signals intelligence intercepted fragments of encrypted conversations hinting at new plots. Analysts read between lines, noting patterns: frequent travel, reduced bodyguards, reliance on Beirut hotels. Each element suggested vulnerability. Every precaution eventually transformed into predictable routine inviting exploitation. Warisi's comrades sensed pressure mounting. They urged him to relocate permanently to Tehran or Damascus, where protection was heavier. Yet his pride anchored him in Beirut. He believed constant movement equaled invulnerability. That confidence would soon betray him. Even foreign journalists sensed climax approaching. Profiles labeled him "the man Israel cannot kill," headlines that taunted intelligence agencies. Behind closed doors, Mossad directors bristled. Allowing narrative of failure to persist threatened deterrence more than Warisi's operations themselves. Thus, inevitability hung over Beirut's skyline. Every sunset threatened final night. Every sunrise threatened last dawn. Fahad Warisi's legend grew precisely because death stalked him so closely. When it came, it would arrive surgically, coldly, and without warning. In late July 1998, Beirut's airport welcomed flights from Europe, the Gulf, and Africa. Among arriving passengers were tourists, businessmen, and diplomats. Hidden among them, under forged passports, stepped Mossad operatives, men and women traveling separately, their stories rehearsed to perfection. One arrived from Frankfurt as Belgian businessman, carrying brochures for non-existent conference. Another entered from Larnaca disguised as Greek travel agent. A woman from Zurich posed as humanitarian worker, her luggage filled not with aid, but surveillance equipment concealed expertly. Their entry avoided suspicion through timing. Each operative staggered arrival, ensuring no clustered pattern. Immigration stamps bore different symbols, hotel reservations booked under varied names. Paper trails suggested coincidence, yet together they formed advancing wave toward Warisi's orbit. The team's composition reflected surgical diversity: lock specialist, communications expert, surveillance operative, and field commander. Every passport bore carefully crafted identity, complete with plausible employment histories, credit cards, and alibis. Each operative knew single mistake could unravel entire mission. Upon arrival, they dispersed across Beirut, avoiding central hotels. Some rented apartments under false leases, others booked discreet guest houses. Each location provided vantage points for blending in, studying terrain, and rehearsing approach toward Phoenicia InterContinental, where target resided luxuriously. Coordination occurred silently. Operatives communicated through encrypted pagers, prearranged signals, and innocuous phone calls laced with coded phrases. Meetings occurred in crowded cafes, where overlapping conversations muffled whispers. Surveillance photographs were exchanged under guise of tourist snapshots, laughter disguising analysis of target. By early August, network was fully assembled. Operatives walked city like ghosts, unnoticed yet omnipresent. Warisi's routines were mapped, habits catalogued, vulnerabilities highlighted. The hunters had arrived, hidden behind smiles, boarding passes, and briefcases, preparing stage for operation meticulously designed. Thus, Beirut became theater for unfolding drama. To ordinary residents, nothing seemed extraordinary. But beneath its surface, invisible actors converged, setting machinery of assassination into motion, an orchestra of precision moving inexorably toward single calculated crescendo inside a hotel room. By August 5th, operatives began infiltrating the Phoenicia InterContinental. Each checked in separately, presenting polished passports. One posed as French antiques dealer, another as Canadian engineer. Their cover stories matched attire and luggage, convincing receptionists they were transient professionals seeking Beirut's luxury. Rooms were carefully selected. None directly adjoined Warisi's suite, yet all offered strategic vantage points. Hallway intersections, stairwell access, and elevator proximity were prioritized. From these locations, operatives rotated watch shifts, cataloging every visitor approaching ninth-floor corridors. Warisi's pattern soon emerged. He dined irregularly, often ordering late-night room service. He preferred swimming pool during early mornings, accompanied by bodyguards who lingered with cigarettes. Most revealing, he rarely locked balcony door, trusting altitude to deter intrusion. Operatives planted surveillance discreetly. One disguised cleaning cart contained fiber optic camera, slipped into hallway ceiling panel. Another agent posed as maintenance staff, inserting modified chip into hotel's internal phone system, enabling recording of Warisi's calls without arousing suspicion. Elevator rides became opportunities for silent rehearsals. Agents practiced casual exchanges, blending into tourist flow. Each movement was choreographed to appear mundane, yet beneath smiles lay constant assessment, escape routes, camera angles, guard rotations, emergency contingencies rehearsed meticulously. Every detail was logged nightly in coded notes disguised as travel diaries. Lines about sightseeing tours, masked hallway patrols, restaurant reviews, denoted cafeteria stakeouts. Intelligence accumulated into precise dossier mapping Warisi's vulnerabilities inside glittering facade of Beirut's most prestigious hotel. Hotel staff never suspected infiltration. Tips were generous, behavior polite, appearances flawless. The Mossad team embedded seamlessly, ghosts within five-star glamour. Beneath chandeliers and marble floors, surveillance web tightened daily, each thread invisibly binding Warisi closer toward orchestrated silent end. Thus, surveillance phase concluded. Target was mapped, habits predictable, defenses penetrated. The hotel had transformed into stage set under hidden direction. Every hallway light, every room service tray, every ringing phone carried potential cue in Assassination's carefully rehearsed performance. On August 12, 1998, Beirut awoke beneath humid sky. For hotel guests, it was another morning of espresso and newspapers. For Mossad operatives, it was day-rehearsed countless times, the moment their choreography would shift from preparation into execution. At dawn, one operative lingered near swimming pool, posing as jogger. His purpose, confirm Warisi's schedule. As predicted, commander emerged briefly, bodyguards trailing. Confirmation arrived through discreet signal. Target present, routine intact, vulnerabilities unchanged. The day could proceed. Another agent strolled lobby with camera slung over shoulder, snapping tourists, yet capturing guards' formations. Bodyguards' casual postures belied lax discipline. They flirted with waitresses, checked pagers incessantly, leaving Warisi exposed. Small cracks in vigilance became critical openings for hunters. By midday, Warisi returned upstairs. He placed multiple calls, voice sharp with irritation. Surveillance notes suggested arguments with contacts in Damascus. Stress clouded his judgment, reinforcing operatives' confidence that distractions would render him inattentive to subtle final intrusion. Afternoon sunlight slanted through corridors as Mossad locksmith positioned himself. Disguised as technician, he roamed ninth floor, toolbox in hand. Cameras recorded his harmless appearance, while in reality, he cataloged locks, hinges, and staff access schedules with scientific precision. Another operative delivered harmless-looking briefcase to room across hall. Inside, specialized electronics, modified laptop intercepted hotel's phone system, monitoring incoming calls to Warisi. Data confirmed his evening solitude, no expected visitors, no scheduled meetings. He would be alone. By sunset, Beirut's skyline glowed orange, streets alive with honking taxis. In Suite 906, Warisi ordered room service, grilled lamb, tea. Bodyguards left temporarily, lingering downstairs in bar. Surveillance relayed confirmation. Target isolated. Opportunity window beginning. The net tightened. Operatives communicated through coded gestures in lobby. A cough signaled readiness. A folded newspaper confirmed surveillance cleared. Team converged silently, dispersing into assigned roles. Every action rehearsed weeks earlier now unfurled against backdrop of clinking glasses and hotel laughter. At 10:15 p.m., corridor cameras momentarily flickered, signal disrupted by concealed device. Locksmith approached Warisi's door, swiping modified card. Mechanism clicked soundlessly. Inside, television flickered. Warisi reclined, sipping tea. Unaware hunters breached sanctuary. Operation shifted irreversibly into decisive climax. The day's breakdown revealed balance between banality and lethality. Hotel guests lounged oblivious, unaware assassination unfolded meters away. To operatives, it was culmination of patience, precision, deception. Hours of silence condensed into seconds. The night promised history written in shadows. The Mossad team carried instruments as ordinary as household items, yet each modified with precision. Toothpaste tube concealed microfilm camera. Comb doubled as lockpick, fountain pen hid syringe. Tools looked innocuous inside luggage, but represented arsenal engineered for surgical assassination. Electronic equipment was centerpiece. A briefcase-sized laptop intercepted hotel's internal communications, recording calls, rerouting signals. Another device jammed security cameras for 60 seconds, enough to bypass surveillance. Operatives rehearsed timing until disruption seemed like ordinary electrical malfunction. Entry required mastery of locks. Locksmith carried magnetic cards mimicking hotel keys, programmable within seconds. For contingencies, he wielded diamond-tipped drill disguised as screwdriver. Every lock had weakness. His task was exploiting it without leaving visible trace of tampering. Poisons offered subtle alternatives to explosives. Vials contained rare toxins engineered to mimic heart attack. Agents debated method: injection through syringe hidden in pen, or application via contaminated drink. Each option offered plausible deniability, critical in neutralizing political backlash afterward. Costumes provided camouflage. Agents donned uniforms borrowed from cleaners and electricians, crafted by Israeli tailors. Every stitch matched authentic design. Blending into hotel staff allowed proximity without suspicion, turning ordinary service personnel into silent predators awaiting precise signal. Communication relied on redundancy. Pagers vibrated coded numbers. Brief hand signals confirmed status. If compromised, agents carried cyanide capsules, a brutal failsafe. Training emphasized detachment. Success was paramount, survival optional. Psychological preparation matched mechanical precision of tools hidden within suitcases. Above all, discipline was their most lethal instrument. Machines could fail, poisons spill, disguises unravel. But human resolve, sharpened by years of training, ensured operations' survival. Mossad's true weapon was not gadgetry, but cold patience embedded into every operative. Thus, the assassination toolkit combined simplicity and sophistication. Every object, pen, pager, keycard, was lethal possibility disguised as mundane. Warisi's fate was sealed not by explosions, but by tools whispering death quietly, instruments designed for silence rather than spectacle. The corridor outside room 906 carried hush of midnight. Carpet muffled footsteps, Chandeliers flickered faintly. Every sound magnified, a distant elevator ding, a maid's cart rolling, muffled laughter downstairs. To operatives, each noise throbbed like alarm threatening catastrophic exposure. One agent disguised as guest nearly collided with real tourist carrying champagne. Polite smiles exchanged, hearts pounding, seconds stretched like hours. The smallest slip, accent, gesture, misplaced word could unravel months of preparation, ending mission in chaos. Inside lobby, surveillance operative monitored feeds, waiting for sign hotel staff might stumble upstairs. A concierge suspicious of flickering cameras or guard investigating corridor hum could rupture delicate illusion. Every passing minute balanced between flawless secrecy and sudden disaster. Upstairs, locksmith knelt before door. Modified card slid effortlessly, but faint metallic click reverberated too loudly in his mind. He froze, breath shallow, praying sound blended with television chatter behind walls, avoiding discovery. Moments later, green light blinked. Door unlocked. Operatives exchanged nod, muscles taut. Entry beckoned, yet timing demanded patience. For assassins, greatest weapon was restraint. Suspense thickened air, each heartbeat striking louder. Silence was their soundtrack, anticipation their most perilous adversary. At precisely 10:27 p.m., operatives slipped into room 906. Curtains swayed from balcony breeze, television flickered silently. Warisi reclined on bed, sipping tea, eyelids heavy. He sensed nothing unusual. In that stillness, hunters entered sanctuary unnoticed. One approached bedside calmly, syringe concealed within pen. With swift movement, needle-pierced vein. Colorless toxin entered bloodstream, engineered to mimic cardiac arrest. Warisi gasped faintly, body convulsing, then stilled. To outsiders, death appeared natural, inevitable collapse of weary man. Second operative adjusted bedding, arranging posture as if sleep overtook him. Pillow was fluffed, arms crossed loosely. Teacup remained upright on nightstand, half empty. Scene staged meticulously to convince investigators. Fatigue, not assassination, claimed commander's life. Meanwhile, electronics expert wiped fingerprints, removed surveillance bugs, reset television volume. Locks were reset seamlessly, ensuring no trace of intrusion. Within minutes, room reverted to ordinary hotel suite, masking extraordinary violence that had unfolded silently inside. At 10:41 p.m., operatives exited corridors separately, blending into guests returning from dinner. Smiles exchanged with strangers, footsteps steady. Behind them, Fahad Warisi lay lifeless, heart silenced by invisible poison. Beirut night carried on, unaware history had shifted irreversibly. The following morning, August 13, 1998, hotel staff knocked repeatedly on room 906. No response. Housekeeping entered cautiously, tray of fresh towels clutched nervously. Inside, curtains drawn, air stale, television still humming faintly, commander's figure lay motionless across bed. At first glance, nothing appeared unusual. No overturned furniture, no signs of struggle. Teacup remained neatly on nightstand, blankets undisturbed. Yet the stillness unsettled staff. Unnatural, heavy silence clung to room, pressing against every nervous breath. Concierge summoned hotel doctor, who arrived within minutes. Stethoscope pressed against chest, pulse checked repeatedly. Doctor shook head gravely. Cardiac failure, natural death, nothing suspicious. Staff whispered, uncertain whether tragedy or scandal now occupied their prestigious guest suite. Word spread quickly through corridors. Guests murmured, journalists soon arrived, police summoned. Local authorities treated discovery cautiously, aware Warisi was not ordinary tourist. His name, whispered by intelligence circles, carried implications far beyond Beirut's polished marble hotel lobby. By midday, stretcher wheeled through lobby beneath hastily drawn sheets. Cameras clicked, rumors multiplied. To ordinary onlookers, death seemed medical misfortune. Yet behind diplomatic curtains, embassies already burned midnight oil, deciphering whether invisible hands orchestrated event disguised as fate. Warisi's body was transferred swiftly to Beirut's central morgue. Lebanese pathologists began examination, though security officials hovered uneasily. Initial observations suggested heart attack, skin pallor, relaxed muscles, absence of external trauma. Doctors prepared routine paperwork, yet whispers of suspicion lingered. Blood samples revealed anomalies. Traces of unfamiliar compounds circulated faintly within bloodstream. Toxicologists puzzled. Substance degraded rapidly, mimicking natural metabolites. Foreign consultants quietly summoned, yet findings remained inconclusive. Official report avoided definitive cause, citing sudden cardiac arrest. Behind closed doors, suspicions deepened. Pathologists privately noted injection-like puncture hidden on arm's inner crease. To untrained eye, mark resembled hospital needle. To specialists, it hinted deliberate intrusion. Lebanese authorities debated disclosure, fearing diplomatic fallout with regional powers. Meanwhile, Hamas officials rejected autopsy results, insisting foul play. They declared Warisi healthy, without prior illness. Family members echoed disbelief, demanding international investigation. Media amplified claims, contrasting sterile medical jargon with dramatic narrative of assassination disguised as natural misfortune. Ultimately, findings were ambiguous by design. Lack of conclusive proof shielded perpetrators, ensuring deniability. Medical science offered shadows instead of clarity, transforming morgue into theater where silence became verdict, and Warisi's death remained suspended between biology and conspiracy. Lebanese investigators turned quickly to hotel surveillance, eager for clarity. Yet reviewing hours of footage produced more confusion. Multiple foreign guests appeared briefly, then vanished. Faces lingered only seconds before elevators closed, their movements strangely synchronized, leaving investigators unsettled by patterns. Technicians discovered unexplained blackouts within recordings. Cameras on 9th floor flickered at crucial moments, particularly night of August 12th. Engineers insisted outages were unusual, not random. Suspicion mounted, deliberate interference, crafted to cloak invisible passage of intruders. Passport records compounded intrigue. Hotel registry listed several European nationals, Belgian, Swiss, Canadian, none traceable afterward. Immigration stamps authentic, yet embassies later denied individuals existed. Lebanon realized passports were expertly forged, identities stolen, their citizens unwilling pawns in clandestine operation. Diplomatic protests erupted. Belgium demanded explanations, Switzerland condemned misuse, Canada issued formal complaint. Western capitals privately suspected Mossad's hand, recalling history of forged travel documents. Publicly, governments balanced outrage with quiet recognition of Israel's plausible deniability strategy. Journalists feasted on revelations. Newspapers splashed headlines about phantom guests, sketching composite faces from grainy stills. Speculation spread like wildfire. Who were these travelers? Why did they vanish? Conspiracies multiplied, overshadowing clinical autopsy reports with intrigue of espionage noir. Lebanese intelligence traced credit card transactions used for reservations. Accounts led to shell companies in Cyprus and Dubai, collapsing into further dead ends. Investigation resembled labyrinth, every promising lead dissolving into carefully engineered fog. Mossad's fingerprints remained faint, yet undeniable. CCTV and passport scandal elevated incident from mysterious death into international spectacle. What began as medical anomaly inside hotel suite now resembled cinematic thriller. For Beirut, Warisi's demise was not quiet tragedy, but geopolitical earthquake reverberating beyond Mediterranean coastline. The shockwaves spread instantly. Hamas declared Fahad Warisi a martyr, vowing vengeance. Funerals across Gaza echoed with chants, flags raised defiantly. Leaders promised retaliation, presenting death not as defeat, but proof of struggle's righteousness. Emotion fused seamlessly with political mobilization. Lebanon confronted humiliation. Foreign assassins operated freely inside capital's most prestigious hotel, mocking sovereignty. Government officials issued condemnations, yet paralysis reigned. Conflicting factions exploited chaos, blaming rivals. Once again, Beirut became stage where international actors settled disputes with impunity. Israel maintained silence. Official spokesmen neither confirmed nor denied involvement, yet off-record whispers among Western diplomats suggested satisfaction. To Israeli leadership, Warisi's elimination restored credibility, proving Mossad remained capable of reaching targets even inside heavily monitored, politically sensitive Beirut. Iran reacted furiously. State media accused Zionist conspiracy, framing Warisi as martyr of Islamic resistance. Revolutionary Guard commanders pledged increased support for Hamas. His death became rallying point, deepening Tehran's commitment, transforming one fallen commander into symbol of unbreakable alliance. Western capitals responded cautiously. European governments condemned passport forgeries, expelling suspected Israeli diplomats. United States expressed concern, but avoided direct blame, balancing counterterrorism interests with diplomatic ties. Outrage simmered publicly, yet privately. Officials acknowledged Warisi's removal served shared security objectives. Media framed incident as spy thriller incarnate. Television anchors recounted poisoned syringes, phantom passports, flickering cameras. Public fascination merged with political scandal, turning assassination into legend. Warisi's name became shorthand for shadow wars, dramatized endlessly in newspapers, novels, and intelligence circles. Ultimately, global fallout demonstrated paradox. Assassination removed individual, but inflamed networks he built. Anger surged, alliances hardened, suspicions deepened. Warisi's death solved tactical problem while creating strategic storm, exposing delicate balance between counterterrorism triumph and diplomatic disaster. Behind Warisi's death loomed faceless institutions. Mossad was not lone wolf, but cog within sprawling bureaucratic machine. Analysts, clerks, and administrators, hidden armies pushing papers, stamping authorizations, transformed political directives into surgical strikes executed thousands of kilometers from polished government offices. Every assassination required paperwork, budgets approved, travel itineraries fabricated, passports printed, layers of signatures camouflaged accountability, dispersing responsibility across desks. Bureaucracy became shield, ensuring no single hand appeared stained, even while collective machinery orchestrated deliberate extinguishing of human life. Within Tel Aviv headquarters, decisions flowed through committees. Politicians demanded results, case officers presented options, lawyers debated legality. Somewhere amid memos and coded briefings, fate of Fahad Warisi was sealed not by passion, but by administrative consensus. Lebanon's bureaucracy responded differently: confusion, duplication, paralysis. Police submitted reports to intelligence agencies, agencies deferred to ministries, ministries quarreled. In this labyrinth, truth dissolved. Phantom bureaucracies ensured questions multiplied while answers shrank, leaving assassins shielded by inefficiency of their victims' institutions. Internationally, bureaucracies performed theater. United Nations drafted resolutions. European governments filed protests. Embassies exchanged notes. Yet beneath diplomatic ink flowed recognition. State-sanctioned killing was reality. Paper condemnations stacked high, destined for archives where dust would bury outrage conveniently. Thus, bureaucracy itself became phantom empire, silent, invisible, omnipresent. These agencies functioned like shadow governments, bending rules without collapsing them, ensuring assassinations occurred within gray spaces between legality and necessity, accountability and denial. Warisi's death was less murder than administrative inevitability. Mossad's operational wing, Kaidan, was whispered like myth. Specialists trained in disguises, poisons, and explosives operated as invisible legion. They moved without insignia, leaving no footprints. To adversaries, they resembled phantoms, ordinary travelers whose briefcases concealed death instead of documents. Within Hamas lore, invisible legions took on monstrous quality. Every hotel guest became potential assassin, every stranger's glance potential threat. Fear itself became weapon, sowing paranoia, fracturing trust within militant networks that relied desperately upon secrecy and loyalty. Other states maintained similar units: CIA's Special Activities Division, Russia's Spetsnaz, Iran's Quds Force. Each functioned like mythic archetype, personifications of clandestine violence. Together, these invisible legions defined modern geopolitics, waging wars unrecorded in history books yet decisive nonetheless. Warisi's hunters embodied archetype of patient predator. Their strength lay not in numbers but in silence, their discipline sharper than knives. They dissolved into cities, appearing indistinguishable from waiters, engineers, or tourists, yet carrying destinies of governments within hidden pockets. Invisible legions operated where diplomacy failed. They were tools of last resort, instruments of denial, and executors of unspoken policy. In Beirut, they proved omnipresent. Warisi's fate was testament to their chilling efficiency, legend etched into silence. The Beirut operation carried echoes of earlier Mossad missions. In 1960, Adolf Eichmann was kidnapped from Buenos Aires, spirited to Jerusalem for trial. That abduction set precedent. Mossad could strike anywhere, transforming global cities into hunting grounds beyond borders. In 1973, Lillehammer, Norway, witnessed tragedy when Mossad assassins mistook Moroccan waiter for Munich massacre mastermind. The fiasco stained agency's reputation, reminder that precision sometimes blurred. Warisi's killing, staged flawlessly, was deliberate redemption for scars of Lillehammer humiliation. By 1988, Tunis became another theater. Khalil al-Wazir, known as Abu Jihad, was gunned down at home. Commandos vanished into night, leaving family shattered. His assassination foreshadowed template followed decades later. Elimination inside foreign capital under cover of ordinary routine. Even earlier, Beirut itself bore scars. During 1970s and 1980s, explosions shattered neighborhoods as rival intelligence agencies settled scores. Each mission left debris, whispers, and unresolved mysteries. Warisi's death became one more entry in city's ledger of shadow warfare. For Mossad veterans, Warisi symbolized continuation of craft. Tools modernized, but philosophy remained constant. Neutralize threats preemptively, regardless of geography. Success was measured not in public recognition, but silence, the absence of enemies capable of striking Israeli civilians or soldiers. Thus, Warisi's assassination echoed lineage of missions stretching across continents. It was not isolated event, but latest chapter in saga of espionage noir, where unfinished stories accumulate like shadows, and past operations resurface in whispers haunting present theaters. At the summit of intelligence pyramid sat leaders, politicians signing papers in secure rooms, imagining themselves puppeteers. Their pens, more lethal than rifles, transformed human destinies into administrative margins. Behind curtains, policy translated into sanctioned killings masked as national necessity. These leaders were not omniscient gods but flawed men, balancing ego, survival, and public opinion. They justified bloodshed with rhetoric of security, yet their motives entwined with ambition. For them, assassinations were currency, traded silently across global diplomatic marketplaces. Thus, Warisi's death belonged not only to assassins, but to gods behind curtain. Puppet masters pulling strings, hidden yet fallible. Fahad Warisi's body was flown discreetly from Beirut to Gaza under heavy security. Crowds gathered at Rafah crossing, chanting slogans, waving flags. Coffin draped in green cloth symbolized martyrdom, carried shoulder-high through narrow streets, echoing with grief and defiance. The funeral became political theater. Hamas leaders delivered fiery speeches condemning Israel, vowing vengeance. Children carried posters of Warisi, their faces painted with slogans. His death transformed into rallying cry, strengthening unity amid loss, mobilizing supporters beyond immediate neighborhood. International delegations issued statements. Iran praised him as hero. Syria lamented fallen ally, while Western governments maintained silence. Diplomats recognized funerals doubled as recruitment rallies. Every tear another thread woven into enduring cycle of conflict and resistance. For family, mourning mixed with pride. His widow received condolences from commanders, his children paraded as symbols of continuity. Warisi's personal tragedy merged into collective narrative, ensuring lineage became extension of political struggle rather than private grief. Immediate impact was paradoxical. Though assassination removed critical strategist, it ignited fervor. His absence became presence. Every chant, banner, and vow amplified his legend. The funeral ended, but echoes carried into alleys, refugee camps, and minds of future recruits. Warisi's death created immediate vacuum within Hamas's logistical core. Networks he built faltered, shipments delayed, funds misplaced. Replacement commanders lacked his subtlety, exposing operations to interception. Israel celebrated disruption, yet disruption proved temporary. Structures eventually adapted, absorbing lessons learned from assassination. Iran responded by deepening involvement. Revolutionary Guard trainers increased presence, filling gaps Warisi once bridged. His elimination hardened Tehran's resolve, proving martyrdom narrative useful recruitment tool. Instead of deterrence, death galvanized commitment, entrenching regional alliances further against Israeli and Western interests. For Lebanon, operation intensified perception of violated sovereignty. Phoenicia Hotel became symbol of helplessness. Government struggled to reassure citizens, yet assassins' impunity revealed state fragility. Beirut's reputation as playground for foreign intelligence deepened, discouraging investment, compounding already fragile political stability. Among Palestinians, Warisi's absence inspired younger militants to rise. They studied his methods, emulated his secrecy, and vowed continuation. Though individuals perished, structures endured. His story became curriculum, whispered in training camps, proof resistance leaders could die yet still guide. Long-term consequence was paradox. Assassination succeeded tactically but failed strategically. Instead of silencing movement, it amplified mythology. Warisi's shadow remained, haunting checkpoints, inspiring slogans, embedding itself into narrative where death never ends conflict, only reshapes battlefield for next generation. In the end, Fahad Warisi's death changed little in the grand scheme of geopolitics. Borders remained disputed, rockets still launched, diplomacy still faltered. Yet his assassination revealed something more chilling: the permanence of invisible wars conducted behind hotel doors. Governments denied involvement while secretly applauding. Bureaucrats filed reports while operatives vanished. Families mourned while intelligence agencies drafted next mission. The cycle endured, proving assassinations solve individuals, not conflicts. Warisi's absence became a reminder of shadows governing international affairs. History records names, but shadows record truths. Assassinations write chapters not in ink but in silence, ensuring peace remains mirage.